Hello and welcome back to Chapter 5 of The Living Story. My name's Funda and Dragon Bash continues. The festival is continuing in Lion's Arch, even after the tragic events of the last chapter, where Theo Ashford, a member of the Captain's Council, was killed during the effigy lighting ceremony, which was sort of the high point of the Dragon Festival, or Dragon Bash. Now he was killed when a mysterious energy burst forth from the effigy that he was standing next to. The cause of that was that the cultural reps who'd been invited to place offerings for their fallen comrades were tainted. So each of those cultural reps had either been bribed or tricked or basically threatened to place those into the fire. That caused the death of the Char cultural representative as well as Theo, as I've mentioned. What we discovered was that a woman named Mytrin was the culprit behind it. She's the leader of a group, or the captain of a group called the Aetherblades. Now they're a new group, a new enemy for us. It's made up mostly of humans, Norn, Char, and strangely golems. Which we'll get into a little bit. With the launch of the Sky Pirates of Tyria update, we received an email from Inspector Keel that the Aetherblade base had been discovered. Located within sight of the founder's statue was a surprise to everyone. It was managed to be placed there due to hollow projectors which obscured the entrance. But now that it had been discovered, Ellen deputised adventurers to go with her to track down Mytrin and to find out what the Aetherblade were up to. On entering the dungeon, we swim through a minefield to gain access. Then we come to these lightning gates, which we need to time our runs through. The next area had cannonballiers, basically peppering the field, just teaching mechanics of how the dungeon would work. Now, I didn't mention this in the last video, but when we were escorting the councillors, we were attacked by the Aetherblade. Now, amongst them were a couple of golems, Mark 1 and Mark 2. Now, I suppose the Aetherblade could have gotten those from a used golem depot, it was kind of interesting and might have gone by unnoticed by some players. Until we got to the dungeon, where we meet an Asura named Frizz. Now, he's a member of the Inquest. He's doing research in an Aetherblade base, quite clearly showing that they're working together. He attacks us with golems and lightning fields, and you need to jump over those and to defeat him. So that's interesting. Aetherblade and Inquest working together. Moving on. This was just a seriously beautiful part of the game, so I was actually disappointed that more of the dungeon wasn't set here, but my enjoyment aside, towards the end of the dungeon we come up these jump pads, click the button to gain access to the final room. Now in there is Mai and her first mate Horik. Now they have an interesting conversation where Mai says, this has all gone to crud, Scarlet's going to have my noggin for screwing up. So apparently she works for someone, or they all work for someone called Scarlet, who apparently isn't going to take what's been happening very well. Okay, so we fight Mai and Horik, finally downing them. There's an Aetherblade ship there, which if you finished in 15 minutes, you could take out. And with that, we have Mytrin in custody. She says that she's going to reveal all, but we'll get to her interrogation shortly. Talking to Ellen about the Inquest, she says it's the first time that she's dealt with them, to which the player replies, see you later. Not a lot of brainstorming going on between the crew at the moment, but I'm sure we'll be coming back to that. A week after the capture of Mytrin, we got word of another Aetherblade hideout, which was again dangerously close to Lion's Arch. Now quite how and why they've been building that close to the a major city, I guess it's basically just to keep close to whatever their agenda is. Again, it was protected by hollow projectors, so you made your way in using jump pads and spinners, which sort of make their first appearance in this jumping puzzle, which is a permanent addition. So it's a reminder that the Aether Blades are still out there, and yeah, this Scarlet Woman is running the show. So we don't actually know anything about her at this point. Just that she's in charge, and Mai was obviously scared of her. Now I apologise for if I'm butchering these names and it's bugging people. She's possibly called May, but Matron, just it sounds wrong to me. So yeah, so I just apologise if that's bugging anyone. Anyway, inside the jumping puzzle, we find an Aether Blade airship, which are pretty amazing. It's also guarded by plenty of the pirates, so just tread carefully. And yeah, the whole mountain's actually a holographic projection, so it's kind of a cool effect. So yeah, the instructions are to come in and grab as much loot as you can. So yeah, take the opportunity. There's 3 small and a large chest in here, so yeah, stick it to the pirates. Returning to Lion's Arch, we find Mai in a jail cell at Fort Mariner. She doesn't reveal much, except that the Aether Blade aren't done and we should watch the sky. Elsewhere, we find Magnus and Ellen. He's pleased with the work again and asks her to run for the vacant Captain Council seat. She doesn't have a ship, so he gives her the captured Aether vessel and, yeah, names her Captain Ellen Keel. Okay, so that's the chapter complete, the story told for this one at least. But I think there's some stuff that's worth going back and revisiting. What we found at the end there was Ellen has been offered the opportunity to run for the Captain's Council. Now, that was done because of a surprising revelation that Magnus made, that Theo Ashford's second was killed weeks ago in the Molten Alliance uproar. Now, coincidence? Or the fact that 2 people needed to open up a council seat were both murdered within weeks of each other. Well, killed. Now, the interesting thing here is that when you see the beam come out, it only strikes the 2 closest people, or kills the 2 closest people, more to the point. So even though 2 of the other councillors are hit, they don't actually die. So Theo was positioned exactly where he needed to be the second victim in the line of succession for the Ashford spot on the council. So who put him there? Who picked the 4 councillors that would attend the ceremony? I thought it was interesting too that they've actually got a Canthan representative on the council and a Canthan-inspired festival, but he wasn't invited. Yeah, so when the Molten Alliance was at its peak, there were reports from our spies that they were drilling to the east, to the west, and down to the south. Now, we didn't really get an explanation on that either, except that sonic periscopes did appear through each of these 4 zones, as well as Plains of Ashford, which is below there. Now, the explanation for why there were sonic periscopes wasn't really there as well. I mean, you know, apart from eavesdropping and watching your enemy, yeah, what were they for? Now, Plains of Ashford, the second. I know this is a Charland now, but you know, perhaps the second was out here, and yeah, that's how they were able to possibly get to him. He wasn't an innocent victim of the conflict, but he was actually hunted, tracked, and killed. You know, as potentially an idea. If that's true, why did they go out to Snowdon Drifts, and you know, what were they looking for out there potentially? Presumably, the 2 capitals have tunnels leading up to that as well. But yeah, the periscopes actually stuck around like a week or 2 after the Molten Alliance seemingly disbanded. Now, that seemed like developer oversight at the time, but who knows? Okay, so turning our attention to Mytrin, when we discovered her at the effigy ceremony, when she calls her army down, she refers to them as her clockwork crew. Now that's an interesting phrase. She doesn't call them her minions, she doesn't call them her comrades who get a share of the loot. She says clockwork. Then later when we catch up with her and Horik, as we're about to break into their hideout, she says, either way I'm dead, so let's wind our springs and ride this escarpment to the end. Now an escarpment is a device in mechanical watches that transfers energy to the timekeeping element. Okay, so two very clear references to clockwork wind-up uh, people. So I got this armor basically because I thought it suited the scepter that I was making. But what if, and bear with me, it actually suits a necromancer a bit better, and that what was actually happening back in Flame and Frost was that they were actually farming an army for the Aether Blades, and that whoever put the Flame and put the Molten Alliance coalition together, their goal was to get a lot of bodies. We saw people being abducted and murdered, tested upon. Yeah, what if they were gathering these Norn and Char and yeah, turning them into clockwork soldiers? So, an interesting idea. The Aether Blades, Aether generally refers to uh, space and heaven and the thing that fills up the universe. Where does the clockwork come from? Why is it clockwork? Okay, so this idea hasn't paid off in the slightest, but uh, back when the Molten Alliance prisoner was captured, he mentioned that they'd been brought together by someone from the city. He described them as a lying, silver-tongued, snake-nosed trickster. Now, what if there was a lineup of important people from a major city who could possibly fit that description? Now, snake nose, take that for what you mean, what it means, but yeah, I sort of locked in on Hal Lewin. He's the financial advisor of the ship's council. He's head of the exchange. He's got a grandfather who had the exact same name, and says, "I've been part of this city for what feels like lifetimes." So yeah, did he have a grandfather? Anyway, there's probably nothing to that, but I think he's an interesting character to watch. And wrapping up, during this update, we went around and we discovered Aetherblade caches around the world of Tyria, basically stealing back some of their loot, checking in with our favourite soap opera. Find that Ottilia's actually made a move on Brahm now, invited him to go hunting. He throws some ideas out there. She wants to go hunting rabbits. I like that he actually recoils at the thought. Rox is still training Frostbite and trialing for the Stone Warband to join up with Ritlock. If you caught up with Marjorie just after while these events were taking place, yeah, she talked about her father. Seems like there was a bit of history there, but anyway, look, take the speculation that I've thrown out there for what it is. You know, a bit of fun. Uh, I could be miles off the path. I may have uncovered a plot hole here or there, but you know, it's all good fun just to see where the story's going, and I hope you'll catch up next time. Thanks.